I already messed it up. I know. All right, hey everybody, I'm Ian Malpass with Scout here. I'm the Associate Director of Business Development. I've been with the company for almost a year and a half now, and I've been in the industry for a little over 6 years, and I'm just excited to share our thoughts and conversation with you today.
Hey everyone, my name is Eric Dietrich. I am the Vice President of Business Development here at Scout Clinical. Really looking forward to the discussion here today. Really want to focus in on our solutions and really from a perspective of patient first. I know that that's what our sponsors and CROs and sites and patients are all looking for, and looking forward to talking a little bit more about how Scout provides this blend of services and technology to really deliver to reduce the burden that participants face in participating in clinical trials. So looking forward to the discussion here today. Scout has a unique blend of both services and technology to be able to accommodate patients. And really, the goal of what we're looking to do is to provide tailored, customized solutions to patients globally. So to be able to have one vendor that CROs, pharmaceutical companies can work with to be able to provide services globally and centrally manage one vendor. That is something that I think we're really doing great work in our communities. So when you think about what is needed from a patient perspective, I obviously patients, their needs when it comes to attending their site visits, their needs are different based upon what is the patient mix, what is the therapeutic area? Is the patient suffering from disease? Is the patient elderly? Does the patient need special care to attend their visits? So we really, try to understand what are those needs of the patients and what are those barriers that would get in the way of a patient participation in a clinical trial. So those barriers can vary based upon, what the study is, where the sites are located, and where the patient visits are located. So I feel that at Scout, being able to provide this solution where we're not just a technology solution, we do leverage technology as part of our solution, but it really is the services blended with the technology to be able to understand where the patient's needs are, what the site's needs are, what the regulatory requirements are within the countries where we are operating or where the patients are making their site visits, and really being able to offer a tailored solution, a customized solution to be able to, again, meet the needs of both sites and patients. So at Scout, we want to make sure that when we are hired and brought onto a team with sponsors, that we're providing those solutions that are relevant to those patients, relevant to the countries, and able to, again, remove the barriers that are associated with patients' participation in making their site visits and clinical studies. So, Ian, what's your experience been with those types of solutions?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So I appreciate all of that. So yeah, my experience has been largely with patient retention, similar to yours here. So, and I think one of the key categories I think that sometimes gets left out when we think about these clinical trials and participants specifically is the travel aspect of it. Specifically, I think because us in the industry, we're well traveled most of the time. We travel to conferences. We do travel all the time. But even when I think about, like my own family, there's plenty of individuals that have, never been on a plane, never left, their home state. So, for us, maybe travel isn't really that big of a barrier or doesn't have that much impact on our day-to-day life. But sometimes when we're asking these participants to travel, even a couple hours to a different state, something like that, it can be a bit of a burden. Maybe they don't have a car, maybe they don't have an easy way to get around, or maybe they don't have the funds to pay for the bus ticket, the Uber, the taxi, the plane ticket, whatever might be required. So I think that sometimes, travel and other little things similar to travel as well, can just be something that gets overlooked. And it's something that, here at Scout, we obviously do deal with travel quite a bit. And we have all different types to kind of support that, whether it's, again, ground transportation, air, lodging and hotel. Again, we have to think about if the participant's going to be overnight, are they traveling with a caregiver? Do we need to provide additional support for their caregiver, family, whoever else might be traveling with them? So really, it's just, again, a piece of the puzzle that kind of gets forgotten sometimes. And it's something that is very important, I think, to when we're talking about this patient retention piece for clinical trials. And we know how important that, obviously recruitment is very important, but then, once we have that participant, how can we make every aspect of this trial as burden-free as possible? So yeah, I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ian. I think about the work that we're doing. We work with sponsors and CROs alike, and I find myself more and more often talking to sponsors about rare disease studies. And I know that it's difficult to oftentimes to enroll patients who are suffering from rare diseases. And when you think about how do we expedite the clinical trial process, and how do we get therapies approved faster? So being able to not only help to identify those patients, but to be able to provide this type of service to those patients, knowing that, hey, it's number one, it's hard to find those patients that meet those criteria, but then also once you're enrolled, how do we get those patients to the site visit? So I find it it really is moving to me to be able to say, hey, listen, we're able to, help with those patients, to help remove those barriers. And, I'd like to think that we're doing our part to expedite the clinical trials to get therapies faster. The other part of it that I think is really neat, and it kind of gives me a purpose on this job, is being able to reach maybe patients who otherwise would not be able to participate in a clinical trial. So to go to those maybe areas where patients are harder to find, where participation in a clinical trial, so from a you think about diversity and inclusivity of clinical trials, being able to reach everyone everywhere to really help them with participation in clinical trials. That to me really is a great thing to be able to do that. So understanding what are the needs of participants in different regions, and maybe regions that otherwise would be an afterthought, and can we potentially have these patients participate? That really is a neat thing to be able to provide that, and the custom solutions that we provide in each nation, each country that we're working in, it is really cool. So what are your thoughts on that front, Ian?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Yeah, so I actually want to I want to touch on something that I think it's overlooked sometimes as well. It's one thing to, provide the travel, provide the, logistics, planning, things like that. But one piece that I feel like you can't just send somebody on their way, and especially when I was just speaking about, some of these participants might not have a lot of experience in travel, is the support aspect that goes along, with that travel. And one way that we've been able to kind of solve that here at Scout is with, our global patient liaison team. It's a dedicated team of individuals that are Scout employees. They're stationed all over the world. They speak multiple languages, so hopefully we can speak to somebody in their native language. We can always get translators on the line if needed. But it's a 24/7 global support team, 365 days a year, because we all know that, when the participant needs support, it's not going to be Monday afternoon at 2 p.m. It's probably going to be on a weekend. It's going to be off hours, and it's going to be urgent, right? So our team is dedicated to just that, patient site support, making sure that, when inevitably something does occur, whether it's, I just try to put myself in the participant's shoes. If I'm traveling for one of the first times in my life, I'm at the airport and I find out my flight got canceled, that's probably a pretty traumatic experience for someone who's not a very, avid traveler. So, being able to have a phone number and email address where they can just reach out to and actually speak to an individual. It's not an automated system or anything like that. Just being able to speak to an individual who can now assist with rebooking that travel. Maybe we need to get you a hotel for the night to make sure that, that you're not just stuck in the hotel. I'm sorry, stuck at the airport. Just having that extra piece of support, I think really makes the biggest difference to these participants to really feel comfortable. It's one thing to remove that burden and say like, okay, yeah, now, the money is not an obstacle anymore for travel, but, are we actually going to provide some support, for when and if something does occur, during this travel? And I think that really shows how much we care. And I think it really does take that, one extra step in making the patients, participants feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ian. And I think about, the sponsors and CROs that we work with, and being able to provide our services as part of their overall solutions. And I know that the sponsors and CROs that I'm talking to, obviously, it's important to them that any vendor that they're bringing on that's part of their solution is patient first. And I think to an individual study that we worked on, a project that we worked on, and they were talking about, it was an oncology study, and they were talking about one particular visit for the patient. It was going to be a prolonged dosing visit where the patient would have to be on site for most of the day. So this particular sponsor was really keen on learning more about what can we provide that patient while they're there on site, whether that is a meal stipend to allow them to have lunch, them and their caregivers. We even talked about being able to reimburse for tablets and subscriptions to such things as Netflix. For the patient to be able to be there, and maybe the time would not be quite as long if we're able to reimburse for some of these patient first. So as a company, I would think that Scout, we really are innovative, and I think we're really open to any idea that our patients have had. And many of our sites or sponsors or patients would have. And many of our solutions at Scout, on the clinical side, on the patient services side, really have come to be as a result of sponsors and sites and CROs and patients saying, hey, well, what about this? So I feel like our operations team really is innovative, and we're nimble enough to be able to say, yeah, we've never done that before, but we can certainly consider that. So some of those innovative solutions, I had one the other day where the sponsor said to me, hey, listen, typically these patients are traveling back and forth to their site visit. It's basically a full day of travel back and forth. So we want to make it known to the sites and the patients that they can spend the night at a hotel, and it reduces the burden on them driving back and forth, for back-to-back days of visits. So those are the type of things that I think logistically we love being able to provide solutions for. And again, I think that everyone on our team, operations on down, patient liaison, I mean, we are patient first. And I think that truly, when you think about the service coupled with our innovative technology, I think that really is the winning formula for patients, which makes me feel great about the solution that we're offering.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a good point too. And what I always like to say is, we like to think outside the box, and I don't like saying no. So, I tell all my clients, bring any crazy idea you have to me and make me say no to you. But I think that's one of the best parts about working at and working with Scout is that flexibility piece. Again, if it makes sense for the patient, if it makes sense for our client, then, it makes sense for us to do it. Let's just go ahead and do it. And I think I just love that attitude about working here.
Yeah, yeah. I know we work with over 140 countries, which to me is really impactful. And knowing that the solutions, there might be different, twists on the solutions. I would say there's a lot of flexibility built in there, that we have customized solutions in each region. The other part that I think is really impactful is that, whether it's managed travel, as we call it, so Scout is helping booking the travel, managing the itinerary. The patient is not out of pocket for any expenses. We can provide those services, and we can also provide services where patients being reimbursed for their expenses. The other solution that I think is coming up more often is this whole concept around making payments that are associated with patient tasks, such as ECOA completion or e-diary completion, being able to make prompt, what I call micro payments out to patients that really are payments associated with compliance to the protocol for their entries for e-diaries or ECOA. The other thing that I would share is that there is a lot of flexibility in how we are making payments to patients. So I know other organizations offer just a reloadable debit card, and we certainly can provide for that. But the payment options are really they're depending upon the region we're working in. Again, we want to make it what's best for the patient and what's easiest for the patient. And even in situations when patients don't have a bank account or don't have access to, PayPal or Venmo, we can still ensure that payments are made in those situations as well. So again, patient first is probably the name of the game here with this discussion here today, Ian, but we have you covered, on a global perspective.